When you first get your box from Serius, as usual, you get the normal stuff asking you to buy more things, but I also bought 2 extra brush heads. This isn't what you normally get if you just buy the brush, but if you just buy the brush set just by itself, it comes like this. Down the side of the box they show you what brushes you get with this set, and they really do give you quite a lot of brushes, which is fantastic because normally you just get one brush and then the actual handle and that's it, so you really do get a good deal with this. I bought 2 extra brush heads, the normal ones, because I find that those are the ones which work the best on my skin. The sensitive one is just a little bit too sensitive and I like something that can really kind of grip on my skin. And one thing I really like is that they come with the batteries already, and I hate when you don't have the batteries because then you have to kind of find some, and 9 times out of 10 you don't have them, so you can just turn this on and go. All the different brush heads are incredibly easy, they just snap on and off. It's really easy, I've never had any of them fall off when I was using them. There's a little bit of a difference between the normal brush and the sensitive brush. Normal brush is a lot firmer. I found that the normal one will last me about 6 months, but the sensitive brush will only really last about 3 months. And overall I really prefer the normal brush. Sensitive I would only really recommend for someone who's got incredibly sensitive skin because it's so sensitive to the point where it almost doesn't do anything for me. There's no real difference between the old version and the new version. The old version is the one I bought about a year ago, and then the new version is the one that arrived recently. The only real difference is the logo. One thing you will notice though is that the actual joint in the handle where you have the batteries is a little bit looser in the old one, and I'm convinced this is the reason my old one died, that water managed to get inside. As for the actual stand, again there's no difference, the only real difference is the logo, and I do prefer the new logo, it looks a lot sleeker. There are a few differences between the new versions and the old versions, so not a terrible difference, but one thing you do have to bear in mind with these brushes is that if you have cleansers which are like the Lush Herbalism cleanser, they can stain the brushes, so you do have to bear that in mind. And if you buy any extra brushes, they come in a little box like this, and then you have the brush head. With the manual they recommend that you change the brush after 90 days. I really haven't found that this is the case. I found that these brushes last me about 6 months, and then afterwards I just use them as manual exfoliators because at that point they're so worn down that I can use it manually without damaging my skin. The main brushes that I use with Clarisonic are the sensitive and the normal brushes. I don't really use the hydration or the exfoliation applicators, to be honest. They do make a difference, but I just find that I don't really use them. For the exfoliation applicator, what you're meant to do is you're meant to wet the brush, then you put on something like, I don't know, an apricot scrub, and then you use that to scrub all over your face after you've wet your skin. But I find that I prefer to use my fingers, so I don't really use this too much. And one thing that I've noticed with both hydration and the exfoliation applicator is that you tend to get product building up around the edges, and it's really quite annoying. For the hydration applicator, which is just really a fancy way of applying moisturiser, the idea is that you apply the moisturiser to your face and then use this to softly buff it into your skin. When I do this, I do find that my skin feels a lot better for it, but I never end up using it just because I prefer to use my fingers. But if you do prefer this way, you are going to find that there is a subtle difference to your skin. One drawback with these kind of attachments though is that they do get dirty very quickly. I think after the 3rd use you're going to notice that it's just stained and a lot darker, and after about 2 weeks it doesn't look too pleasant. And you do tend to get a lot of clog up on the sides. I really hope that in future they might curve the edges for all the brushes, because it would make it a lot easier to get areas like the sides of your nose and the sides of your face. What I normally do when I'm using this is I wet the brush head, and then I'll take my favourite cleanser, pop just a tiny blob on top, and then I'm going to softly buff this all over the face. I try to avoid holding it in the middle because I find that then I really press it against my skin, and I prefer to hold it at the end because then that way I just let the brush do its job without really pushing it into my skin. You're only really meant to spend about 20 seconds on your forehead and then 10 seconds on the rest of your face, so 10 seconds on your chin, 10 seconds on your cheeks, 10 seconds on your nose, that kind of thing. While Serius do say that it's waterproof, I wouldn't really say this is the case. It's very waterproof when you just get it, but after a few months it does get looser, and I'm convinced that the reason my old one died is because water managed to get in. Here you can see the new one and there's nothing inside, but when you look at my old one, you're going to notice that there's rust in the corners, and I think that's the problem. I think the little kind of rubber thing does wear out, so I wouldn't recommend that you leave it in the shower. And if you're not too bothered about the aesthetics, try and maybe put tape around the handle, because my sister did this and hers has still lasted well over a year and a half, so I would recommend this. One serious problem though with this is that they only do a refund after 60 days, but it took 2 months to get to me. So this is something you have to bear in mind, because by the time they actually get it to you, it will have passed the 60 days, and they really do take their sweet time.